is The Time Worm by Richard Shirk. Our theme song brings us into episode 71 of the Left of the Dial podcast. I'm Flick, and
this is Richard Shirk, the singer and author of The Time Worm. You can find that on my new record with Clairvoyance. And Sean, always good to talk to you about music and other things. What are we talking about this week?
All right, so a couple things this week. So this is a new format, or new format, I guess is the correct term. I was right on the first try.
Podcasting expedition, yeah.
Yeah. We're calling this Revisionist History, where we take a look. So I guess to say what this isn't, these aren't albums that we've necessarily changed our view on over the years, but just basically feel like they've both mostly been misunderstood or just deserving of a reexamination for one reason or the other. And we're going to start off this format with a couple of albums that we're interested in, and I don't want the cat to get out of the bag as far as what our opinions are just yet. But we're going to start with Neil Young's Trans from late 1982, and Rolling Stones, Their Satanic Majesty's Request.
1967, right?
I wasn't sure, but yeah, I will take your word for it.
Trust me on that one. Two really weird, cool albums, and easily could be a very strange side A and side B of a tape.
Yeah, and two December boys, as Alex Chilton would say, looking back at the release dates. So
just in time for Christmas, Their Satanic Majesty's Request.
That's right.
Trends. How nice! Thank you.
Yeah, Satanic Majesty's Request came out on the 8th of December in '67, and Trans by Neil Young, almost 1983, really came out on December 29th. So not even in time for Christmas. Late for Christmas, 1982.
Okay, and was that the E.T. Christmas?
Yeah, 1982 would have been the E.T. Christmas. So
the Atari game that sank the ship.
Yeah, so I guess there might be some parallels there.
So in 1982, it would be awesome if you received both E.T. the Atari game and Trans under the Christmas tree. That's all you get.
But that would have been an advanced copy of Trans, though.
Yeah, well, maybe I know people, right?
Yeah, that's right. For your parents, maybe know people.
Yeah, they still do. It's weird.
So maybe they're in good with David Geffen or Neil Young or somebody associated with it.
Yeah,
Ralph.
Yeah.
Bruce Palmer. Nils Lofgren. I'm just going to name off personnel here. Roll call.
Yeah, roll call. Yeah, Niels. So which album are we? Which album should we really jump into first?
So let's do reverse chronological order and start off with Trans. Go back all the way to late 1982, early 1983. I imagine most people that bought this would have bought it in 1983.
What was I doing in 1982? Let me think back. Well, regardless, I'm looking at an LP copy of Trans right now, and what's your personal history with this flick?
So I bought this at Cheapo Records. My first trip that I ever made to Cheapo Records in Minneapolis. Cheapo Records is a huge record store. It isn't in the same location anymore, but it still exists. And they had a lot of albums that would be, like just tons of vinyl. CDs were the big thing at the time, but they were almost exclusively a vinyl store, and just had a huge selection of used vinyl. And a lot of it would be like $1.90, $2.90, and and I hit that Neil Young section and basically filled out every single uh, title on my list, and I think I completed the catalog, just everything I didn't have, in some form, got it on vinyl at cheapo there.
Oh
So
wow, yeah.
yeah, and so basically that was like all of the Geffen albums, and On the Beach, which was out of print at the time, it wasn't on CD. Uh, Journey Through the Past and Time Fades Away and all of that stuff.
Ooh, Time Fades Away. That was gold for a long time. That was one of the last ones to get the reissue treatment.
Yeah, and Reactor, Hawks and Doves, American Stars and Bars. Yeah, and all told, that probably cost me like under $50. I'm sure. Like my whole trip probably cost me less than $50.
Oh, that was a really good day. Oh.
Yeah, and and it was pretty excellent. Yeah, so yeah, that's basically the start of things. And I don't know how familiar I was with what the album would be at the time. That I don't recall. I know, like there was a record store I used to go to. I know I had a conversation with a record store friend of mine, either before or after it, about trans and how, it just, it just wasn't his cup of tea, which I totally understand. Like, it would be a real shock to the system, I'm sure. And I don't recall, I might have had some knowledge of that going in, so I just don't recall this being like a super shocking event to me to listen to this. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I've always found this to be an interesting album, because I think more than anything, I always saw this as a real bold move. It isn't the kind of thing that I would have wanted. I wouldn't have wanted this to be like a stretch of albums that were like this, but I think it's pretty cool that he has an album like this in his catalog.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it's such an interesting. I don't know. It kind of makes sense if you read about Neil Young as like a really technical guy, as someone that's interested in reproducing Doppler effects on toy trains or model train sets or whatever. So, and then, yeah, if you read more about him and his son Ben, and who has cerebral palsy and was a tiny little kid at the time, and how involved Neil was as a parent with trying to work through his different therapies. All those things kind of converge on his studio nerdery and his maybe like his friendship with Devo. I mean, that's kind of a speculation on because they were kind of hanging out. So you gotta kind of think about that a little bit.
The relationship with Devo goes back a few years from this, like probably like 4 years, because actually the album title Rust Never Sleeps, he got that from Devo, because it was Mark Mothersbaugh, and I don't think he was the only member of Devo that worked in advertising, but Rust Never Sleeps came from their advertising days, where that was, I think, the slogan for Rust-Oleum, Rust Never Sleeps. And then Neil ended up using that for an album title. So that was, he had the relationship with Devo already at that point. I think maybe they were an opening band for him or something to that effect already at that point.
Huh, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. By the way, though, before we plunge too much more into this, probably a good idea to know where we both like Neil. Probably a good idea to kind of know what our preferences are as far as his catalog. So, like, what's your favorite album, favorite two albums, or whatever? with
Well,
Neil,
first of all, in our house, he's Uncle Neil.
as he should be.
So,
Which is why you got the advanced copy of Trans under your tree. In
of
fact,
course, yeah, I was two, so I was already that hip. It's really hard to pick a favorite, but for the longest time, and I think this might overlap from when we were hanging out in college, and it's still true today. If I find a nice, clean vinyl copy of After the Gold Rush on vinyl, I have to buy it and then give it to somebody. So I think over the years, I've probably purchased about, I'd say probably like 5, 6 copies of that record, and gave one to my buddy Bradley, gave one to my sister. I think one ended up with Molly, maybe. Yeah, that's always a good one. But the neat thing about Neil is that he'll come out with either reissues or new things, and they'll sound just sound like gold, like the Homegrown album. But if I had to pick one that always sounds good, if I had to pick just one, it would be Harvest Moon. And I think part of that is that this was maybe not my introduction to Neil Young, but from when it came out in 1992 is when I was first getting just really, really into music, and starting to collect music as a youngster. And this is an album that my mom brought home and thought I would like. So thank you, Dr. Becky Graham.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what's up? Go
How
ahead.
about yourself? What's your one, your desert island Neil Young jam?
Well, it's tough to reduce it to one. But yeah, After the Gold Rush, I think is I kind of think of that as the old reliable. Like that's never I'm never going to say no, I don't feel like listening to that one. It just always works for me. Um, I think after On the Beach is kind of like I don't know if I would say that I always feel like that's my favorite. I feel like maybe that's the one I make the strongest connection with or the deepest connection. Uh, it's tough though. It really is. It's because at any particular time it could be Zuma or it could be I don't know. It could be Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Like there are probably 5 or 6 that could be my favorite at any given time. But I would say most often it would be On the Beach or After the Gold Rush.
My second pick would be Tonight's the Night.
Yeah, that's a very specific mood to me, but it's a very strong album. Um, and yeah, I mean, going back to how long the relationship is, like I can remember being probably like 3 and hearing Heart of Gold on the radio and just really liking that song. Like I don't know, I have a ton of memories, music memories that go back to, probably being like 3 or 4 or even maybe 2. I don't know, but I can remember at a very early age hearing that on the radio and really liking that.
Yeah, and the people that I was hanging around with when I first moved to Portland right after college, they were also music nerds, mostly music writers, and I had heard about Trans, but I hadn't heard it. I think at the time it was out of print, and this is back in the day before you could just pull it up on Spotify or whatever.
Hmm.
And my buddy had it. My buddy Pat Wensink had a copy of it, and we would put it on. But I think when he put it on as like a joke, and uh, I really liked it, because I think I was a little bit further into people playing around with keyboards and sequencers and stuff. So Gary Newman and that kind of thing were and kind of more or less continue to be my jam. So yeah, this one just really did a lot for me. And then I realized probably like 2 years ago I didn't have a copy on vinyl, so I'm looking at my copy, and kind of a lumpy, interesting sequencing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and we'll get to that for sure. Yeah, so it's so you mentioned the Devo thing, and I think that does play a certain part. More so though, it's really influenced by Kraftwerk or Kraftwerk. I'm never sure if I'm supposed to say it the way it would look to my American eyes, or if I should pronounce it the way Florian Schneider would have pronounced it.
You got to say it like Florian, or else he's gonna.
Okay, all right then, Kraftwerk.
Thank you.
So, so yeah, I think that the big influence, on this, they're definitely. Well, we'll kind of go through it, title by title, but for the most part, it's that Kraftwerk influence, and it does come out of of the therapy sessions with his son Ben, because Ben was very nonverbal and had a difficult time communicating, and there was some kind of electronic device used to try and help him communicate, and then so that played a big part, and I think that also played a big part in he was spending so much time with his son working on that he was also very necessarily disconnected from Crazy Horse or other musicians that he's playing with, and doing a lot of things on his own. I think it helps a lot to have context with this album. It can be very confusing, I'm sure, to not know things like this going in. I don't know, like when I first heard it, I probably didn't know those things, but I think it certainly benefits from that information.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I guess the way it kind of plays out in my head is that, yeah, totally. I can totally hear the Kraftwerk influence in this, but maybe when he was hanging out with Devo, he's like, "Oh, that's the box you got to purchase, and this is how you wire it to the other thing."
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people take it for granted in whatever year it is, 2021, to be able to hook up all your keyboards to your laptop. But back in the day, to get your drum machine to talk to your keyboard took some work, and you couldn't look up the tutorial on YouTube yet.
Okay, so before we discuss the tracks on the album, maybe we should take a little time discussing the album cover.
Yeah, so the album cover is great. It's the kind of album cover that, aside from all the other great things about vinyl, you really got to appreciate it on a record, So it's highway in Northern California, and to the right, it's redwoods, and Neil Young is on the side of the road. And this is kind of painted like a 50s postcard almost, and he's trying to bum a ride. He's got his thumb out, and inexplicably he has bongos. A lot of people don't notice that. And cars driving by, like a 57 Chevy or something, and then split down the center line of the highway, it all of a sudden it's a future. And it's like kind of a Tron wireframe future, the kind of future that would have you think that there'd be a bunch of Concorde airliners in the air, and gull wing doors. So the hitchhiker on the left is like a kind of a Tron computer generated fellow, and a gull wing door on some sort of future mobile is just open.
Yeah, Virtual Neil is thumbing a ride with the future vehicle, future car.
Yeah, I love it.
And the future car seems kind of like the stereotypical future car in art and science fiction, and yet now it looks more like there's a frame of reference in reality because it looks very similar to a recent model Tesla car.
It does, yeah, and it just goes to show you that Neil Young has always been ahead of his time.
Yeah, or whoever painted this, whoever I don't know who gets the credit for that.
That would be Barry Jackson. Thank you, Barry Jackson.
There you go. Barry Jackson had it going on, had it foresight.
It was a good day for Barry Jackson, and yeah, one of the really cool album covers of Neil Young's long and varied discography. Always like this one. It tells you kind of exactly what's going to be going on in the record, as does the back cover, which is a human heart with kind of the schematic cutaway showing all the wires and resistors and stuff that I guess this is Neil Young's robot heart.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, and as far as reviews go, as far as critical acclaim goes, I think it technically is kind of mixed. It isn't something. This wasn't an album that was panned. I think Robert Christgau gave it a very positive review, like a 4 out of 5 star review. If you look at it now, just like yeah, we're not the only ones revising them because you look at Pitchfork's recent review on this, and it's a 7.8 out of 10. All Music, on the other hand, gives it 2 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, well, I never listen to people, so
Yeah, and the Village Voice. I don't know if this would have been the review at the time, but it shows as an A- review. So critically, actually, I would say overall that's a pretty strong reception. Sales, definitely weren't to David Geffen's liking. He, eventually sued Neil Young for making unrepresentative albums, albums that didn't sound enough like Neil Young for his liking, and that's part of the reason why the running order is a bit disjointed, as we've already alluded to. Some of the songs are from a different, like a scrapped idea for an album. I think was called "Island in the Sun."
Yeah, the kind of like Hawaiian thing about Phoenician sailors and such, right?
Yeah. And so basically, I think that was something, that was a concept that Geffen wasn't into. And so that basically got scrapped. And yeah, and so it makes the album pretty disjointed, but I guess maybe a little bit more sellable than the synthesizer songs, or I guess more representative of Neil Young, even though this isn't what he wanted. What he ended up getting was something a lot less representative, I guess.
Huh. Well, yeah. So just starting out side one, it's like starts off with a pretty standard Neil Young rock song called "Little Thing Called Love." Nothing really unusual about that.
Yeah, definitely the most accessible song on the album. Like, yeah, it may be a somewhat standard. This wouldn't be, it's fairly lightweight. It isn't an exceptional, like, it isn't maybe what you want from Neil Young so much, but it's something, I guess, is pretty acceptable.
Right. And then the next track, if you're looking at the running order on the first pressing of the LP.
Oh, by the way, though, I should also mention a little thing called "Love" has a little hint to the track "Harvest Moon." There's that little guitar bit that ended up being recycled for the song "Harvest Moon."
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Good ear as always. So yeah, it starts out fairly conventional, and then I've got this really cool sticker on mine that says This first edition pressing of Neil Young's Trans album contains a typographical mistake. Although it is listed on the lineup on the back of the record and on the lyric inner sleeve, the song "If You Got Love" is not on the record itself. And so I've
Yeah.
always been pretty curious about that, and finally looked it up on YouTube. And it's a pretty standard rock song too. So I kind of like that. It starts out as kind of like the right side of the highway on the front cover, and then it quickly goes to the left side with Computer Age. And Computer Age, and a nice little suite of his kind of computer songs, using a lot of vocoder, a lot of synclavier, and a lot of sequencing. It sounds really cool. I'm a lot of drum machines too.
Yeah, and this is where I think you hear the Kraftwerk influence the most on this song. And in addition to the sound, which the sound is really great. I do have to say, I don't remember now. I might have been familiar with the Sonic Youth version before the Neil version, actually. The Sonic Youth was on, did Computer Age on the Bridge, which was a tribute album, like before tribute albums were a fad. There was a tribute album called The Bridge that featured Sonic Youth doing Computer Age. It had Dinosaur Jr., Nick Cave in the Bad Seats, Victoria Williams, Soul Asylum, and Flaming Lips were on it before they were well known at all. A lot of great bands on that album, and I think I might have had that before I had a copy of Trans, and I do have to say the Sonic Youth version I do prefer a bit. It is actually one of my favorite Sonic Youth recordings of all time, actually.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah, and so these are very digital sounding tracks, and I kind of answered my own question with today by kind of nerding around and wondering, did Neil ever play Computer Age live? And he did, and under all the vocoder and synth and drum machine, it's kind of like a pretty standard, cool Neil Young and Crazy Horse tune. And found a great live version from 1987 at the Paliostrada Milano.
See, I would not, like, I did know that he had done this live. I would not have bet that he was doing this live in 1987.
Yeah, it was really interesting to find, and it looks like a lot of fun too. There's a guy doing the internet tells me maybe Larry Craig, the guitar tech. He's playing the synth line, and then in this tune, when the drum machine bass drum is hitting pretty hard, to do that live, he has like this long-handled mallet, and he's just just like smacking the top of the piano cabinet that he's playing. It's really theatrical. It's really cool. You should look it up.
Yeah, I do remember there was I think it was Neil Young live in Berlin where he was doing a lot of these songs, and then doing Shocking Pink's songs too, because the Shocking Pink's the Everybody's Rocking album was also, it was in 1983, but essentially this is a 1983 album, really. And so they were doing a lot of trans stuff and some Shocking Pink stuff, and yeah, I do, like, it's been a long time since I saw that, but I do remember that live concert video.
Yeah, so you have this this great suite of computer sounding songs. Transformer Man has always been a standout for me, and Computer Cowboy is a really fun song too.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Transformer Man. So he did this later on MTV Unplugged. more standard, more it was acoustic, and you really like if you weren't already kind of hearing this as a Neil Young, like a true Neil Young song, like uh, a strong Neil Young type of song. I think it was pretty obvious when he did it on MTV Unplugged and doing it in all of the standard accoutrement. I know I didn't really pronounce that in the best possible way, but but yeah, Transformer Man is an exceptional, like probably the best song on this album, I think.
And it's a real tearjerker. It's like a really sweet song,
Yeah, really sweet, and the one that I think is the most obviously about his son Ben. So the remote control, direct the action with a push of a button, is really about so because of his physical difficulties in communicating and everything else, basically Neil, I'm sure with the help of somebody, but I don't know who to credit it to, basically was able to set up a way for Ben to control electric trains, electric train set, with a remote control, and that was like where they really bonded. That was the way that he could really connect with his son. So yeah, I mean, it's a really sweet song, but again, context helps a lot with a lot of the stuff. Knowing that makes it that much more powerful even.
There's that line like, every morning when I look in your eyes, I feel electrified by you. I think that's just like the sweetest line. That gets me every time.
Yeah, it's a very touching song, and because it's on an album that doesn't get a lot of attention, probably doesn't get thought of as one of his stronger songs, and I don't know where to rank it really, but I think it's an essential song. It definitely needs to. If you really like Neil, you need to listen to this song. If nothing else on this album, you need to listen to Transformer Man.
I thought you were going to ask, I don't know exactly who to report this to. There's, it's like a 1-800 number for people not appreciating Neil Young songs.
That's right.
We should set that up.
You should turn in your card right now.
That's right. Yeah, it needs to be like a analog answering machine. Be a segment. And then side one, I think side one is kind of my side on this record. Ends really strong with Computer Cowboy.
Yeah, I mean, we are in control in Computer Cowboy. I could kind of give or take those a little bit. Transformer Man, like I said, that's an exceptional song, and We Are in Control is all right, but it's more. It's very unusual for Neil to have kind of this science fiction scenario, but it does. I would say this is where We Are in Control is where you hear maybe some echoes of Devo though. So it is kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah. I love that. It's kind of the same science fiction-y feel as like the Tron.
Mm-hmm.
And in the lyrics you have like it's like, oh, I think Neil Young has been reading the owner manual for the drum machine, and that's where you get like I think that's where Sample and Hold comes from. There's like what is that line about? Our units never fail.
Yeah, and I would say Sample and Hold is a song I like. Like it does have a certain like it almost it could easily be done as a Crazy Horse song. Like it does it's a bit of a banger, I'll say, and it just kind of replicates that feel that you get from the Neil Young and Crazy Horse rockers, even though the subject matter is a little unusual, but it's basically robot love or whatever, and but then again, like sedan delivery is sort of an unusual subject matter for a Neil Young song. But yeah, I mean, it has that feel. Like I think the only thing about it, I think there are some songs, if he would have been, if he would have honed these instruments a little bit longer, I think Sample and Hold might have had more teeth to it. Like some of these songs could have benefited from a little bit more toothiness, And I
Well,
think,
that's where I'm glad you brought that up, because that track, that toothy version of Sample and Hold that you've been looking for, is there's a different mix of that on Lucky 13 that has like a lot more oomph to it. It's like the club mix.
oh, that's right. I had forgotten about that actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and a little bit of a tweaked version of Transformer Man on that compilation record. Lucky 13 being the compilation of Uncle Neil's best tracks from the Geffen years.
yeah, which I don't necessarily think they're the best tracks from those years, but
It's a best of record. I mean, yeah, I would choose different things too, but
yeah, I would definitely choose different things, but yeah, that's one thing I didn't do. I should have gone back to listen to that, but I didn't.
It's a really cool mix. So yeah, I kind of, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, this has got to be like the 12-inch version that got sent out to DJs,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
I guess to backtrack just a little bit. So side two actually opens with "Hold On to Your Love," which is obviously another Island in the Sun track. Also synthesizers on this, but the difference between, I think, good synthesizer and bad synthesizer on this album would be illustrated with "Hold On to Your Love," because
Ouch.
I really don't enjoy the arrangements, the arrangement on that particular track. It just, I don't know. To me, that's the difference between cheesy sounding synthesizers and where synthesizers can be more engaging, I guess, for me.
Huh. Well, we don't have to agree on everything. But, I guess I never really thought of like, oh, Neil Young, you should remix this track. It's just, that's how it's always been. But yeah, you can definitely hear a tune that, if you saw him on like a solo acoustic tour, like maybe around Greendale or something, play "Hold On to Your Love," no problem. It's a really, really cool tune, and wouldn't be that out of place, aside from maybe the synths that you mentioned on a bunch of other records.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I don't know if this, to me, this would be an evocative description of what I'm talking about, but I'm not sure it's going to translate to everybody. But when you think of like Casio synthesizers as opposed to like a Moog or something, I would say "Hold On to Your Love" kind of has more the Casio feel to it.
Wow, good pronunciation on Moog. That's a deep cut. This man knows what he's talking about.
I do my homework.
He does his homework.
So yeah, then we have Sample and Hold, and then we have Mr. Soul, which is one of the
that's a litmus test for.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest Neil Young songs there is. It was the first, at least the first vocal that he had on Buffalo Springfield album. I think he wrote other Springfield songs before that, but that was the first one that was really him, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much the real rocking tune on whatever that Buffalo Springfield record is. But yeah, and it's this version is him doing it, but with some vocoders and stuff. How do you feel about that?
So
I don't mind it. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I don't mind it, and I love the song. I really love the original. It's also a mainstay. Like I've seen him do it live just about every time I've seen him live.
Yeah.
And with that being said, it kind of seems like the idea of putting that on this album is kind of a bridge between the past and the present or the future. If you want to look at trans as like a glimpse into the future, which so that would suggest that why not put this at the beginning of the album? Like I think this would be a good way to open the album. As it is, it's the second to last track, and the placement's the hardest thing to understand about it to me. In addition to that, I would say, like with Sample and Hold, Toothier would be better. I like Mr. Soul's a really toothy song to begin with, and I think maybe if he would have done this a little bit later on, then it would have a little bit more punch to it, and I think that would improve it. But I do like it.
I think it may be one of those, the 10 Rules of Rock and Roll by Robert Forster says you should put the song that you like least as second to last. Kind of hide it there,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what he's doing, but I think, I'm not sure I would lead off the album or even the side with that, but could be kind of a nice closing track. But while we're going into Neil Young's archives and rearranging all his stuff, it always kind of seemed to me like half of this record could be, you have Like an Inca, Hold On to Your Love, Little Thing Called Love, and then If You Got Love, which is very much in the same kind of like standard, rocker kind of vein as those other tunes. Like it'd be kind of cool to have them on their own side and then have like all the cool computer songs on their own side. What do you think about that?
Like, so one side is the love side.
One side is like the kind of like standard rock songs, and like almost all of them have love in the title. That's fine. But
as
then
long as it doesn't have a guest appearance by Mike Love, then I think I'd be okay with that.
He's probably lurking there somewhere. And then the other side would be just like the weird computer songs, which I love. I think I like this album a lot. I like it because of its quirks, and a cool thing about, maybe this is part of the sequencing too, is that before Spotify and before CDs, you can't really skip over a song very easily. You've got to interrupt your ping pong match to do so. You don't want to do that. So yeah, I like it. It's a weird album that kind of like what we talked with Tom Waits. I feel like this could be the source of like a really bad Thanksgiving dinner when you bring it up to your parents. And your parents would be like, "Oh, that's garbage." And you're like, "No, Neil Young trans rocks." So yeah, just consider that when you're bringing it up in casual conversation.
Well, it is one of those things that I do check in on a Neil Young Facebook group every now and then, and when somebody whenever somebody brings up a trans song that they really like a lot, I always there's always you can always read in their words that they feel a little self-conscious about it, like they're a little
they get like flamed hard.
Yeah, and I always make sure to comment on those just to make sure that they're not the only ones that feel the way that they do. Like
you too, little buddy.
Yeah, because it can get a bit polarizing. Before we move on, are we just going to skip over Like an Inca, or do we want to talk about that at all?
I like the tune, but it could be on like 6 other Neil Young records.
Yeah.
It has kind of like a Zuma feel to it.
Ooh, I wouldn't want it on Zuma.
Yeah, it's like a Zuma B-side or something. It's fine. It's kind of like that lead guitar riff is kind of goofy to me, but
yeah, I get what you mean though, because you're thinking it's a little bit thematically like Cortez the Killer, perhaps, or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it kind of fits in with that theme.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing that so another song was reworked a little bit into this, the song String Man, which if you're a big Neil nerd, then you know the song I'm talking about. And really, if you're not a big Neil nerd, you might not be listening right now because we're talking about trans. So I mean, there's obviously a bit of a limited audience for
I
it.
don't know. This is kind of the gateway show.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to serve that purpose.
See, tell me about. I don't know this tune. I've got it up on YouTube right now. But what's going on?
Okay, so String Man, I believe it was a song that was written about Stephen Stills. Um, it's very much a ballad. It's a piano ballad, but just the chorus of Like an Inca. Like String Man goes, "I'm singing for the string man who lately lost his wife," and just that melody is what I'm talking about. So that little piece of that song was put into the chorus of Like an Inca.
Huh. Yeah. I love that about songwriters. Bruce Springsteen does this a lot too, where you can tell that he's just got all these notebooks and he's like, I think I need a verse from from 1976.
Yeah, his version of cutting and pasting.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's Like an Inca, definitely another one of those Island in the Sun songs. Um,
Trans by Neil Young. If you see it in the cutout bin, definitely recommend it. Especially if you like that album Big Science by Laurie Anderson. If you like Devo, if you like Gary Newman, if you like
Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk, and I think it used to be kind of one of the cutout bin records for Uncle Neil until Pitchfork got a hold of it or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
worth picking up.
Yeah, to this day, like I have a CD of it that was an import. To this day, it's never been an American CD.
Huh. And I was kind of looking around, and you're the authority on Uncle Neil. So, has there been a like deluxe reissue or an archival vault opened?
No, I mean the Neil Young archives haven't really gotten to the '80s yet. So I think someday that will happen, God willing. But yeah, I mean, right now the archives is still in the '70s, so it's going to take some time.
Okay, well, let's hope we get there. Inshallah.
Yeah, eventually. All right. So, any parting thoughts? Any other parting thoughts?
I love it. More vocoder, please.
Yeah, and yeah, I love the album too. Not really anybody within the show here changing their opinion, but it's just one of those things that needed to be re-examined because there's a lot. It's like I said earlier, it's a very polarizing album, very misunderstood. But it's and I don't rank it. I don't know where it fits on Neil albums because I love them all. It's not one of the ones I love the most by any stretch, but it's certainly one that I like, and one that I find very interesting. I love the risks that Neil was willing to take here. I love that that's always been his attitude. The big thing I think about, I'm kind of thankful in a way that Neil, his 1980s was just him sort of without a roadmap at all. Because you look at his peers in the 80s and they just put out boring stuff that would sell. A lot of uninteresting stuff that was done in the mode of the times and very forgettable stuff that you really want to bury, stuff that you wouldn't want to talk about, years after the fact, almost 40 years after the fact like this. If nothing else, Neil has never been boring, and I love that about him.
Completely agree.
All right, so that wraps it up for trans, and so we're going to also talk about the Rolling Stones Satanic Majesty's request. We'll put that out a little bit later in the week. So that will wrap it up for tonight. But yeah, later in the week we'll have part 2 of episode 71 with the Rolling Stones and their Satanic Majesty's Request on the LOTD pod.